I'm here at Fat Apple Farm in Pine Plains, New York, and this is their newly opened farm store where you can find all of their delicious, humane, ethically raised products here. Pork, lamb, chicken, beef, and eggs, as well as duck eggs, which I am super psyched to use up, and we'll maybe do another video about that at some point. But I'm going to be talking to John Agostinho, the farmer here at Fat Apple, and he's going to tell us all about regenerative farm practices. So we're going to learn a lot. It's a gorgeous farm, and yeah, so here we go. Let's hear it from John.
Every, like, what, 7 years or so, they come out with another term for what we're doing. You know,
Gotcha.
It used to be sustainable.
Right.
Before that, it was organic.
Right.
You know, it's really about trying to put more into the soil, into the land than you're taking out of it.
Gotcha.
That's this whole idea of regeneration.
Yeah.
So what we try and focus on is our soil health, is like, you know, looking beyond what's just on top of the ground, but like understanding that there is a whole like ecosystem of, you know, bacteria and beneficial bacteria and fungi and all this stuff that's going on underneath, you know, what we can't see, and what, you know, I think is really the foundation for what we're trying to do, you know, up here on top of the ground. So there's this very like there's this relationship and like this understanding of like if you take care of what's happening beneath ground, you'll yield the results. And we're also trying
Excellent.
to like build resiliency
Yeah.
in that. You know, we want to be able to withstand droughts and withstand floods, and with, you know, the nature of things and where we're heading in terms of like climate, it becomes extremely important to be able to ride those sort of things out. So we're all about, yeah, diversity, and perennials, you know, like plants that will come up and do what they need to do, and will feed our animals and wildlife, you know, all around here, from birds to rabbits to deer. We
Excellent.
have lots of them.
And so you have tell me what animals you have on the farm.
So we have cattle, we have hogs.
Okay.
We have about 15 sows now.
Okay.
So we do as much as possible all of our own breeding. We have sheep, we have chickens, freedom rangers for broilers or meat birds, and we raise like a hybrid red egg layer
Okay.
that we move around in our egg mobiles. We have ducks,
Yeah.
and that's it. And
That's great.
you know, our hogs, we have about 150 born every year.
Wow.
And are finishing about that many with the carryover through the winter. So we have a group of 60 that are over there kind of beating up and fertilizing this hill
Nice.
that will eventually be replanted in this fall.
Okay.
For forage for cattle and ruminants is kind of like how we're doing it. We're using pigs to come in and disturb areas because they're good at that, and then following it up with forage that, you know, diverse, you know, 10 different species of grasses and forage and forbs and legumes. And the idea is that like that is just perennial. Like we want to focus on perennials.
Okay.
Like that's what we do.
So when you talk about genetics, you said what exactly are you looking for?
We're looking for cattle that have been selected to perform on grass only. So what Mike's done, Mike Scannell and Joan Harris, is they traveled the world 20 so years ago, or Joan did, and looked for the best cattle to start with. They also worked with a gentleman named Gerald Fry, who really helped, you know, them along in this whole process. And the idea was to do linear measurement and line breeding. So these cows, if they don't measure up, they don't stay in the program. And measuring up is really talking about how long they are, how wide they are, and then you get a ratio. So like myself versus someone else, you can sort of see how tall I am, how wide my chest is. And
who has more meat?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're looking for.
Right.
We're looking for efficiency and yield. So these cattle in general will yield 70% of their hanging weight, which can be somewhere from 20 to 10% more than you know, conventional cattle. And that can make a big difference. They also will have, you know, tenderness consistently. They'll also be very consistent looking because of the line breeding. So we're not bringing in new genetics. We're trying to create, or what Mike has done and what we're going to work with him to try and do, is create sires for the next generation. And this is something haven't spent a lot of time with cattle, so it's kind of new to me, and it's been like my focus for, I'd say, the past 12 months. So there's a lot to learn.
Oh yeah.
But we're just super excited to be starting from such a high place in terms of the genetics, and I find it's so important, especially now, if we're talking about, you know, an agrarian or regenerative farming, that you have the animals to match what you're trying to do, and they are unbelievable at putting nutrients back into the ground and harnessing, sunlight to eat grass and turn it into beautiful, delicious, nutritious meat. You can just sort of see them, the way that they're shaped. Kind of looks like old folk paintings of cows. They're very boxy. They're lowish to the ground.
Yep.
And they're wide.
Yeah.
And that all translates into a higher yield and more efficiency. Planting 10 to 15 years at least before, I've gotten enough experience to know what I'm looking at, and to have gone through enough, generations to feel like because ultimately we want to be sharing these genetics all across, the country, because I think it's an important part of, having animals that can perform on grass and having good eating experiences all along the way. There's a lot of animals like these low-lying Angus who were very much so grain-fed until we got them, and they didn't, necessarily perform all that well or taste all that great, and you start to understand where this notion of grass-fed beef isn't, fatty or isn't like a good eating experience, and partly I focus less on breed, and it's more about the genetics and how those genetics have been selected and where they came from, and then you get these cows, these Devons, and it's exciting to see like how they can perform.
The changes that they've. So for something that takes this long, you clearly have like a major passion for this, because you really have to commit yourself to like an extended time frame. So that's what I'm really interested in too, is how you got into this.
So I don't know, I'll blame my parents to this country from Portugal, and lived, on farms, homesteading or whatever you want. I don't know what you would call it. It was just living there. And they moved here, looking for more opportunity, and basically food has just been a super important part of like our family, and like eating meals together and celebrating holidays and birthdays, and
it's the best part.
Yeah. And my mom, has been cooking for, since she was 10 years old, for, her parents and people working out in the fields, and her passion is feeding people. And my dad worked construction as like a road laborer, and would come home and had some backyard gardens behind people's houses. And so he would work all day and then come home and grow vegetables. So
Excellent.
There was a live market nearby, so like we would have fresh chickens and rabbits. And that was just sort of normal to me. And then as I got older, realized that this wasn't the connection or experience most people had with food, and that really intrigued me. And so I started to think about food more, and was going down a path of being in a career in information technology and IT, in an office, and sort of realized that that wasn't what I really wanted to do. It wasn't my passion, and I didn't know what was, but food was of interest. So I was working and then finishing my bachelor's degree at night, and ended up majoring in political science, and started connecting everything, all the classes back to food, whether we were talking about oil or everything. And so I got into this idea of like, oh, maybe I want to do like social justice work around food. And before doing that, I was like, maybe I should apprentice somewhere and actually know what I'm talking about, and actually get, my hands dirty. And so I volunteered at the Queens County farm, right on the border of Queens and Nassau County. I'm from Queens, originally, and fell in love with it. Fell in love with like the idea of being able to see the progress of what you did that day, and share that bounty with people, and knew that it was of high quality, and that really resonated with me. And then from there I got married, and then pulled the wool over my wife's eyes, so to say, and said, I wanna try this farming thing out. So then I ended up getting an apprenticeship for a year at Queens County Farm, which was mostly vegetable based. They had some livestock, but we're mostly there for like museum programs, for kids who are coming from, never seen a sheep or a goat before, or a chicken. And then from there, I wanted to get deeper into the livestock side of it. I felt a connection there, and I wanted to explore that more. So I ended up doing an apprenticeship at Stone Barn Center in Westchester County. And from there, really got immersed in multi-species, like diverse livestock production, and ended up moving out of the city and started living in an apprentice house there right off the farm. And that kind of just snowballed into an opportunity in further north of here in Stuyvesant to take over sort of management of a property that used to be a sheep dairy but still had sheep, and gave me sort of the opportunity to just start like a small CSA for people back in Astoria. Just kind of threw myself in and made all the mistakes and learned from them as best I could, and continued to like have a passion for it. We were breeding pigs and finishing out hogs. I still had the sheep, which we had about 100 or so sheep for ewes, and learned all about that side of things, and sort of like taking all that responsibility on, like it kind of forces you to learn a whole lot. Is all I can say about that. But hi Hazel, you're a looker. It's just amazing to see what they can do and what their impact is properly managed, and that's the key.
Beautiful.
Is management.
Yeah.
I think we're really getting there, and these guys, moving them around in the way that we do, which is very intense. Like we want to move them in very small like areas, but moving all the time. And basically we want them to come in and just take one bite off the top of the plant, because that's where all the energy is in the plant. That's what they want to do. And then move them, and then it's about recovery. It's about rest.
Right.
So if you do that, instead of turning them out into a 40-acre field and being like, they'll be good for a while, what ends up happening is they go to the plants that they like, the best ones, and they keep going to those plants, and there's no time for recovery. So in the spring, we can actually move through fields and come back to an area in like 30 days.
Oh, wow, okay.
And regraze that area. It will have grown taller than it was when they were last in there. And in the summer it can push to like 45 to 60 days, and then in the fall you're getting closer back to 30 days again. So it allows us to actually utilize a lot more of our forage, because we'll get more cuttings and grazings out of it, and we're trying to focus on just letting cows do that. Like their impact of like trampling and like laying grasses over are all part of it, and the fact that we're putting them in small areas, we force them to compete for food. So you'll see them a lot of times shoulder to shoulder, sort of like mowing it down, but they're also distributing their manure evenly in smaller areas.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Instead of like going to their shade tree where they want to be, and just pooping there, which is great for that tree. I think the biggest thing I could say is that we need, if you want these farms to stick around, you need to support them.
Exactly.
And you need to know who they are and what they're doing, and
How can people support you on this farm?
I think by buying our product, telling others about.
And where can you buy your products?
So right now we through our website you can find what we have, and we have a small little farm stand that's self-serve.
Okay.
We also we'll pull orders for people and consider delivering. We're just in this phase now where we're trying to figure out how best we can distribute or get our product to people.
Mm-hmm.
Hi Hazel, you're a looker.